welcome to Bow Ties, or sometimes called with myself, Ashley. Edward, how are you, Edward?
Good evening, Ashley. Doing well this evening. Thank you very much. How's yourself?
Not bad, not bad. It's a Thursday. We're nearly there. They do say the first 5 days after the weekend are the hardest. And we are joined this... Sorry, you can laugh if you want. And we are joined this evening by our special guest, Mr. Jamie Stangroom. Good evening, Jamie.
Good evening to you, Ashley.
Actually,
Edward.
well, what time is it there? We seem to be specialising in people in different time zones. So what time is it with you?
Yeah, I was going with your time where it is evening, but here it is definitely more Buenos tardes. It's the afternoon. I'm in Mexico City where, hang on a second, it's 12 minutes past 1 in the afternoon.
Oh, cranky. Well,
time travel.
I know. You're in the past. Well, more to the point, we're in the future.
How is it in the future? Have
It's
I got
really
much
good
to look forward to?
Not really. We've gone through... Oh, well, hang on a minute. By the time you get to our time, we might have gone through another 2 or 3 prime ministers.
It's likely. It's likely, at least.
That's quite possible, I would think, yeah. So, Jamie, we're going to have a talk with you this evening. Now, for guys that... I mean, I've known Jamie for years. Well, virtually. So, yeah, I've known you from your work previously on the radio and podcasts and so on. Listened to you for hours. But Jamie Stangroom, writer, director, producer, presenter. Where did it all start for you then? What was your background? How did you get into what you're doing?
Yeah, I don't know, which isn't the best start to an answer, but it kind of happened, really, I suppose. It started really at high school. Media studies, the DOS subject, I suppose. Back then, I think it's become more of a proper subject since my time, but back then it was a bit of a DOS and it was fun. And really, I took that after a gap year. I took that into, I say gap years because I didn't get the grades I needed. I took that into university. I guess I just extended the DOS, to be honest, never really knowing exactly what I wanted to do. And that's kind of how things have gone. But I think broadcasting, particularly radio, has always been a part of my life. As a youngster, I remember going to see my dad at weekends, and we'd always have 5 Live on, Sports Report, listening to the football scores come in. It's just always been a constant throughout my life, and ended up in it, really. And at university, I got a work experience placement on Saturday mornings making cups of tea for Eamon Holmes on a 5 Live show, and also occasionally a bacon sandwich. He did enjoy a bacon sandwich, did old Eamon, a few. And meeting the guests, bringing them to the studio, etc. for the live show. And that kind of eventually turned into a paid gig as a runner, they'd call it in TV. You have a Joey just doing whatever, basically. In radio, it gets a posher name of a broadcast assistant, and kind of worked my way up. Different production roles, on-air roles, and there's never really ever since been a job title. I've kind of just done lots of different things, and these days I'm very much freelance, and I would not know how to describe what I do. It's literally every day is different, and it does include all of the things that you mentioned earlier and a little bit more, I guess.
I was going to ask you about, because you said sort of, being I was going to say a runner then. What was it? Broadcast assistant, yeah?
Yes, and then yes, please. Give me my proper title.
Apologies. Jamie Stangroom, broadcast assistant.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You obviously, like you say, you had some sort of roles live on air. I mean, I would imagine that's really daunting, because I'll be honest with you, when I do this, it's fairly easy, but even I fluff my lines here, but I can probably edit it afterwards and make myself sound really good. So how was that in the early days? I mean, I've listened to you on the radio for hours on the podcast, and it's just flawless. I mean, do you get nervous? How's it?
It's interesting that you describe it as flawless. I don't know what you were on while you were listening to those broadcasts, but no. But the interesting thing is that for me, they're not flawless. But this is something I've over the years tried to change in my mind, because you strive for perfection, and any minor fluff of a word kind of gets to you, or gets to somebody like me. Yet on the other side, you didn't even notice. You just described it as flawless. So I think you almost add extra pressure onto yourself, like that you have to deliver a perfect delivery of a script, or ad-libbing if you're live in a certain situation. And yeah, I kind of used to obsess over everything, to the point where going live was actually better for me. even though it might be seen as being more daunting, I found going live to be better, because when you're live, obviously you're live. If you make a mistake, in commas there, inverted commas there, you can't do anything about it. The best thing to do is only apologize if it's a massive mistake. If not, just keep going, because most people won't notice. And I think because you're live and because you know you can't make a mistake, the adrenaline kind of gets you through it. However, when you're pre-recording, I find personally anyway, when you know you can start again if you need to, that's when, in the past anyway, I used to just like spend an hour on a 5-minute, link, if you like. Yeah. And it took me a long time and that was the kind of more daunting for me, wanting to achieve what in my mind is perfection. It took me a long time to realize that's not possible. And actually what isn't perfect sounds perfectly fine to those listening or to those watching. So it's taken me a long time to kind of not care as much, essentially, just to sort of get on and do it and accept that it's never going to be perfect, but that also really does not matter. So I think I used to make the process more daunting for myself in that sense. And having done it now for well over 10 years, I think, and hundreds and hundreds, if not into the thousands of interviews with people from all walks of life, I do still get a little bit of nervous energy. But I wouldn't say I'm nervous. I think the nervous energy is important, and I definitely feel it, before I hit record every time, no matter who I'm talking to. But I think that's important. I think that keeps you on your toes. And if you become too comfortable in the role, that's when I think you will start to genuinely make mistakes and start to not care in the wrong way, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So I still get nerves to these days, but I wouldn't say I'm nervous.
Yeah. I saw an interview, not an interview, YouTube channel. It was Paul Daniels, actually, and he used to try and share his wisdom, bless him. And he was talking about why people get nervous, or at least why he would have got nervous as a performer. Yeah, and it was really about the fact that you're actually worried about embarrassing yourself. And actually, if you just let go with that thought, not care, but if you mess it up, you mess it up. When you start thinking like that, everything becomes a lot easier.
Yeah.
So you were in radio then, a broadcast assistant, and then I know that you've done sort of radio roles as well, and then you've moved into visual stuff, haven't you? So with the old Star Wars. So I know that Ed, well, he doesn't know this yet. No, he does. He's got some questions, and so I'm going to just hand over to Ed for a second.
So, Jamie, the whole universe of Star Wars, how did your involvement begin with that?
Yeah, so I suppose it was, I like to think of a natural progression. I've always been, like many people, a Star Wars fan. I had an older bro who was kind of at the tail end of the original trilogy coming out, and he had the original toys, so I had them as hand-me-downs. I remember the special editions coming out with the Tazos, and going to the cinema to actually see Star Wars on the big screen, which I think before then was just, like for a lot of people in my age group, and I think many age groups as well, a thing that was on telly at Christmas. Finally seeing it on the big screen was where it became real, I suppose. So I've always been a fan. And then, as Ashley mentioned, moving, radio's always a thing, but sort of transitioning from just radio to video as well kind of involved Star Wars. So I think I was sort of at the beginning, not me personally, but I was there at the beginning when radio started to get visualized. So more online videos for radio stations were starting to be experimented with for social media, YouTube, etc. And around that time, a friend I met at 5 Live, who used to come in on the show I mentioned when I was a broadcast assistant, we stayed in touch. He was a regular guest on that show called Sam Delaney, who, if you listen to Talk Sport and things like that, he's sometime host on that and a writer and all sorts of things. He became commissioning editor for Comedy Central, the UK version website, online, not TV. And he was commissioning, they were experimenting really. It was really the start of sort of actually investing in online video for these sorts of companies. And we started doing videos together. So contacts I'd made, at this point I'd been on air on 5 Live, contacts I'd made from previous interviews, I kind of utilized to do some silly interviews for Comedy Central. And then The Force Awakens, Disney bought Star Wars. The Force Awakens was announced coming out in 2015. There was that photo of the original cast and the newbies, John Boyega and co, Daisy Ridley, sat together doing a read-through. I saw this picture and it made me think, this is great that Han Solo's there, Luke Skywalker's there. Don't know anything about these new characters yet, but great. What about low-grade Ewok? What about the man who played Jabba the Hutt's tail? Because yes, there was a man in Jabba the Hutt's tail, Mike Edmonds, who also was low-grade Ewok, actually, multitasker. And where are these more niche characters? Let's go and track them down. Of course, the original movies were made in the UK. So most of these actors, if they're alive, are in the UK. And the idea was to not just interview them, but to make an audition tape with them to show Disney what they're missing out on and maybe get them back in a future film. And originally that was going to be for Comedy Central Online. Sam's a big Star Wars fan, and yeah, it was all kind of agreed. And the way I kind of work with Sam, because we were mates and we're both pretty sort of rebellious, was just to go and get it done. It was all rough and ready, you know, almost like it's produced from my bedroom, what it was. And, you know, with the help of friends, we made it, and didn't sign a contract. It didn't cost much, to be honest, but I was able to self-finance it, keep receipts to get my expenses back, but it really wasn't much. And it came to the movie, you know, almost coming out, which I think was December 2015. And Sam left Comedy Central. And he said, don't worry, the new guy, big Star Wars fan, he loves the idea, it'll be fine. Anyway, new guy, it was not fine. He basically wanted to treat the content I'd created very differently to the intention. The original intention. He wanted to scrap the interviews and just use the audition tapes, which I kind of understood, going for these small, viral, potentially viral moments. But the interviews I knew as an interviewer and as a Star Wars fan were good. Some were interesting, some were funny, some were actually sad. And that was with Ahmed Best, who played Jar Jar Binks. Talking about his experience, you know, leaving him suicidal after the Phantom Menace and the backlash that he wrongfully received personally. So I knew there was something there, and I kept them to myself and basically started a YouTube channel. The Jar Jar interview, I didn't really know what I was doing, but the Jar Jar interview actually did prove me to be right, because it went viral. It went everywhere. It was on the Dirty Daily Mail online. It was in NME. It was Entertainment Weekly in the States. Vanity Fair online for some reason. BBC News online. And that was based on the interview, not on the fact I then got him at the end as an audition to do the Liam Neeson Taken monologue in the voice of Jar Jar Binks. It was actually the interview where he, you know, really opened up about the backlash he received for the first time. And it kind of went from there. I didn't really know how YouTube works. Still don't, to be honest. And continued what was called, and still is called, the These Are the Actors You're Looking For series, although now it's really just straight interviews. We don't do the audition tapes and what have you. So yeah, I don't do so many anymore, but the next one is coming out soon, and it's with Frank Oz, who, amongst many, many things, was in a Star Wars context, Yoda, puppeteer and voice.
Can you get him to do Fozzie Bear for us?
Was he Fozzie Bear? Because I know he's Miss Piggy. I've lost count in terms of Muppets and Sesame Street of what he did. But no, he wouldn't. He wouldn't do it. He doesn't perform the voices. He wouldn't do it. No, he doesn't perform the voices. But he gives a very good reason for not doing it.
Well, do you know what? I've got here, talking about Star Wars now. I've got a little quiz for you and Ed. You're going to love this. Not a lot. Okay. So it's Star Wars or not Star Wars.
Oh. This is
a format that might be of, that Mr. Stangroom might recognise, or J-Dog, as I'm going to call him for the rest of it. So I'm going to give you a name of a character. You need to say whether it's a Star Wars character or a made-up character. Oh, don't worry, I'll keep the scores for you, right? So Ed, I'm going to give you the option to answer first on each one, okay?
Okay. I'm probably going to embarrass myself here. I did have all the action figures as a kid, so I sort of should know all the obscure ones, but we're looking 45 years ago.
Well, don't worry, Ed.
Don't worry, man. Don't worry. I'm in a similar boat to you, because even though I am genuinely a Star Wars fan and the interviews I do are a glorified hobby in a way, I really only know the movies. I don't read the books. I don't watch many of the animated series. I've seen a few of them. So I really only know the movies. So even though I'm considered a big Star Wars fan, when I meet really big Star Wars fans, I am out of my depth in seconds. So we'll be all right.
Okay.
We'll be embarrassed together.
You'll get through it together. You'll get through it together. And if not, we'll just edit it. So, no, no, we won't. Right, okay. Here we go then. So, Ed, we're going to start it off nice and easy. Number 1.
Okay.
Jabba the Hutt. Star Wars.
That's definitely Star Wars. You want to be really, really pedantic. You can say Return of the Jedi, but mentioned in the original film.
Well, don't give away too much. You don't. Oh. Jamie might not know this one. You don't know. Jamie, what do you reckon? Star Wars or not Star Wars?
Star Wars. Thanks, Ed. But no, funnily enough, I did know that one anyway.
Well, you see, there we are. Now, number 2, Bib Fortuna, if I'm saying that right. It's Ed. This is an audio one. You need to talk.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. Yeah. That's definitely Star Wars. 100%.
Definitely. Oh, right. Okay. Very confident there. Jamie.
Nawanga. Star Wars.
Star Wars. Right, Ed. Number 3.
Voiced by Eric Balsfeld, physically played by Mike Carter. There you go. There's some extra nerd points, please.
Hang on, I'll give you an extra point there. +1. Right, okay. Lovely. Number 3, Lassiter Pom.
Say that again.
Lassiter Pom.
I'm going to say not Star Wars.
Right, Ed. Jamie. I
haven't a clue, but I'm going for not Star Wars as well, basically because we've had 2 that are Star Wars. I would like to, just because I'm in it for the extra nerd points, also like to inform you that Eric Balsfeld, who voiced Bib Fortuna, also voiced Admiral Akbar. It's a trap. There you go.
Listen, I'll tell you what. I'll put a possible +1 in brackets. We'll see how you do. So, not Star Wars. You're going with okay? Correct. Not Star Wars. I just stole it from neighbours.
It seems as sort of the Star Wars names have got a certain rhythm to them, and that didn't follow the rhythm.
Well, let's see if you can follow that one through then, Ed.
Okay.
Let's see. Captain Yor.
I'm going to say not Star Wars.
Okay. Star Wars or not Star Wars?
I'm going with Star Wars, so I can't be accused of copying Ed each time.
It's Star Wars. Star Wars. Oh, Jamie is just going into the lead now with the plus points as well.
Who is Captain
Yor?
I haven't got a clue. It's just saw it on IMDb. Listen, the thing with quizzes, those that don't know the answers write the questions. So, next one, number 5, Boba Cannon.
I'm going to say not Star Wars again.
Not Star Wars, okay. Jamie?
I mean, there are 2 words that I associate with Star Wars, Boba for Boba Fett and canon, because there's always what's canon, what's not canon. So I'm going to say, no, you're playing with words here. It's not Star Wars.
Correct. I was actually playing with 2 words, which have nothing to do with Star Wars. Bobby Ball and canon.
There we go.
Yeah. Well done. Very good. Number 6, Droopy McCool.
Oh, I think that's Star Wars. I've got it in my head somewhere.
Star Wars. Okay, we'll put that down as a Star Wars then, Edwin. Yeah, and what do you reckon?
Yeah, it's Star Wars.
You're looking quite confident, yeah?
Yeah, no, it's definitely Star Wars. I think he was part of the band in Jabba the Hutt's palace, Return of the Jedi.
Matt Rebo band.
Yeah. I think.
Crikey, getting all the facts here. Let me make a little note of this one. Edit that one in. Joke, I won't. Number 7, Wampa.
Star
Wars. Okay. What are you thinking, Jamie?
No, it's definitely Star Wars. They are the things that are. I don't know if we ever see Wampas, do we? But they're the things that they shoot on Tatooine. Luke talks about it with.
No, they're Wamparats.
Oh, Wamparats. So the Wampas. Yeah. Oh, hang on, but Wampas is definitely
Empire. The big ice bear thing. You know, the one that captures Luke. Luke's got it in a cave in the beginning.
Yeah, is that Star Wars? Okay, I should probably go with. I don't deserve a point for this, but you're right. I was thinking of Wamparats. So give Ed the point.
We'll give Ed a point there, right? Ed, you're going to get a point. Jamie -4 points for for arguing. So, right, there we are. Okay, here we go.
Misspent youth collecting all the action figures pays off.
Have you got any of them though? I could
No,
do
they've all gone. Gave them all to my little brother, and they all got destroyed. So
unbelievable.
Potentially thousands of pounds worth.
Yeah.
If you kept the packaging and the figures, which of course, who would?
They're doing, well, exactly. They're doing retro stuff now, aren't they? They do all the figures are carded to look exactly like they used to. Because when I saw them we went to a Comic-Con recently, and I saw them there. Obviously, they were in far too good condition to be the originals, but they look really like I remember them anyway.
Got a little anecdote for you here about the figures. When Return of the Jedi came out, the carded figures, the figures came out before the film. And there was a figure of Boosh, just called Boosh, in it. And, that's good. It looks like one. I like the bounty hunters. And I bought it. You could take its helmet off and it was Princess Leia. So as she was in so that was a massive spoiler for the Return of the Jedi film from the action figures.
I remember. Do you know what? Actually, thinking about it, I might have that. Because my mum just kept everything from years gone by.
Yeah,
I should go through the garage really. I could be worth a fortune. I'm just sitting here doing this.
But yeah, huge spoiler on the action figure front there.
Well, I don't distract me anymore now. Listen, we got big things. Dexter Jetster. Dexter Jester. Yeah.
Jester.
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 Listen, I don't want to get pedant right. Let me read it out. Okay, this is Dexter.
Yeah.
Jetster. That's what it says. Oh, hang on, wait a minute. That might have given it away. If I made it up, I would have at least chosen something I could pronounce.
I'm gonna go Star Wars.
Star Wars. Okay, Ed. Jamie is now looking totally bored because he's thinking this is just too easy.
No, I've realised that Ed can see me, so I'm trying to be facially neutral now. When you
poker face.
Yeah,
got
exactly.
it.
But no, I know it's Star Wars. Attack of the Clones. He is Obi-Wan's mate. Runs the diner. Coruscant.
Crikey! Do you know what? I feel like I need to give you an extra point for that.
Go on in.
Go on in. Yeah, all right then. Give you an extra one. Hang on. Now, let me scrub out those -4 ones. You're redeeming yourself there now. Right.
Thank you.
Right, next, there's only 2 to go. You'll be glad to know. Vaisy Sue.
I'm going to say not Star Wars.
Not Star Wars. Poker Face, J-Dog. Star Wars or not Star Wars?
I don't know. I'm also going to go with not Star Wars. That's my hunch.
You're both right. Very good. Very good.
Is it a mix of Ed Vaizey and Suella Braverman on the MPs?
No, it's sorry, Ben. I took it from Royston Vaizey. Yeah. Which is actually Roy Toby Brown's real name. Anyway, yeah, so there we are. You get to learn all sorts on this show. And last one, Peaky Cloud. Peaky Cloud.
That's probably Star Wars.
Okay, Ed. You think it's Star Wars?
I'm going to go not Star Wars. It's a guess.
It's not Star Wars. Well done, Jamie. Well done, Jamie. No, so well done as well, Ed. Actually, to be fair, Ed, you surprised me there. Right, now let's have a look. Let's top this up. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ed's got 8 out of 10. Do you know what, Ed? I'm astonished. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I had every faith in you. And Jamie has got. Let's have a look. We got 1 wrong, 9, but then I'm giving it 2. Yeah, it's Jamie has managed somehow.
Yeah.
To get. I think this is right. If anyone could be bothered listening back, 11 out of 10. Well, there we are. I wouldn't expect anything less. Well, Jamie, I've got a couple of questions I just want to cover off with you because I'm conscious of your time. I'm really appreciative that you've given us your time this evening. So one was about the fact that you've actually met Dave Prowse, haven't you? Because he's been featured in some of the work that you've done.
Yeah, he was part of the original interview series that I mentioned where I was doing the audition tapes and actually got to go to his house. And we did the interview in what was essentially his garden shed, Croydon's very own Death Star. And it was actually, in terms of the final product, it's a fun interview. It's a good interview, I think. It was quite a difficult interview to do in the moment, though, because at this point he was definitely suffering from dementia, so it was quite an awkward difficult experience, but the end product was good, and I sat in Darth Vader's shed. But yeah, overall, a bittersweet experience, I would say.
Now he was a really big chap. I mean, he did the training, I think, with Christopher Reeve. He got Christopher.
Yeah,
Reeve
it's true.
Yeah.
So I think he was maybe an Olympic bodybuilder as well. He was definitely a bodybuilder. I think maybe to Olympic level. Well,
I mean, I've met him at a Comic-Con, but he was seated at that stage, and obviously, but you've met him sort of. I mean, was he? I was guessing he was still quite a big chap, really.
You could definitely see signs of the Green Cross Code man from years gone by. Of course, he was a little bit more hunched and old and mostly sat down, but yeah, big dude. I shook hands with him, and it was definitely a firm handshake.
Definitely a firm handshake. Make a note, firm handshake. I wanted to just touch upon the Empire Strikes Back. Now, I know we've alluded to it. We're going to put a link in this video because we've got so many subscribers, and we'll really add value to your channel.
Thank you.
But no, we will for our people that follow us. Not many. But the production values on that incredible. I love the delivery of it. I love the recording of it. We won't give away spoilers of what happens at the end, but it's a bit tense all the way through, including lie detector tests. Jeremy Kyle stuff territory there. It must have been a big feat to pull together, though.
Yeah, I'm still in pain from it, to be honest. It was never actually intended to be a documentary, 45 minutes or something. It was originally part of my plan for the interview series of finding the kind of niche cult actors stroke characters, making audition tapes with them, trying to get them back get the attention of Disney. I wanted to find a stormtrooper that bumped his head, which is, I believe, voted the most iconic and certainly most concussive blooper in cinema history. This is in the original Star Wars film. The sound effect that's there now, as he clunks on the door, was added later. They didn't even notice at the time during the edit. In fact, no, actually, I think they did, which we learned in the documentary. But anyway, it was kind of emphasized in subsequent cuts that George Lucas did a lot of. I ended up finding a number of stormtroopers claiming to be the one that bumped their head in that scene. And it ended up having to be an investigation. And I don't think any of them, the 3 men I found, I don't think any of them were lying. I believe they all did bump their head because, as Luke says in the movie itself, you can't see anything in those helmets, and that was the case in reality. But who did it in that actual scene? Who was responsible for that iconic blooper? So yeah, it became an investigation. 3 old men, former stormtroopers. Actually, one of them refused to talk to me, but we got enough of his story to go with. You'll find out why in the documentary. He used to be a milkman on EastEnders. But Laurie Good spoke to me, who was definitely a stormtrooper in the movie and also played a few like Cantina aliens and things like that. His reason for bumping his head in that scene, or his story, was that he actually had diarrhea. So we renamed him the Storm Pooper. And then there was Martin Reed, who also spoke to me, a former Captain Birdseye, no less. And was there something fishy about his story? Well, you'll have to find out, won't you, by watching the documentary. So, yeah, as you mentioned, did lie detector tests. Which, I was doing this in quite a tongue-in-cheek way. I was quite inspired by Brass Eye, for example, in terms of the delivery. But the end result that we were striving for was always a serious thing. And even more so for them, they wanted to be validated. They wanted to be crowned as the galactic idiot. So I spoke with Gary Kurtz, the producer, who was working on that scene, the third AD on that scene, somebody else as well from the crew who was there. And we managed to sort of join the dots with the different accounts we got from the 2 stormtroopers we spoke to. Could, of course, never give a conclusive answer without Lucasfilm really opening up the archives for us. So I put a jury together, essentially. And Kevin Smith was part of it. Chris Jericho, the wrestler, also in a band called Fozzy with his bandmate Rich Ward, both huge Star Wars fans. Ahmed Best, who played Jar Jar Binks. Greg Grunberg, who's been in Star Wars, amongst other things. Also, and yeah, based on the evidence I got, they voted as to who they believed. And who got the most votes is the person I believe as well. And yeah, we had the two men in the room together and in a premiere in Kent somewhere. I can't remember where exactly. And it did get very tense, very awkward. Because as I mentioned, even though, sure, the end result was something I wanted to achieve, but I was doing it in quite a fun way. But this was serious business for them. And I won't say who, but for one of them in particular, did a lot of Comic Cons and was signing that image of the head bump. So for him in particular, it was a really big deal. It was his retirement, essentially.
Where the tension was, yeah, as a viewer, palpable. I felt that you needed security there, to be honest with you. It was actually, you know, it was a cross between Jeremy Kyle and the old Jerry Springer.
Yeah.
Throwing chairs around the room.
I don't think it was ever going to lead to throwing Premier Inn furniture around the room, but it was certainly tense. It was, and I'm good with awkwardness. I have no problem with that. But even I was starting to think this is a bit much. And actually, one of them failed the polygraph test, which, to be honest, I think quite rightly, because I don't know how reliable these tests are, but it was just one instrument we could use amongst others. Not everybody took that at face value in terms of the jury. So the person who failed the polygraph test did still get votes. Giving him that news was genuinely horrible and horrible for me and devastating for him. And I just remember, because we built a rapport and he knew I was a little bit of a joker off camera because I'm being quite deadpan on camera. He was just like, "You're joking, right? Come on, Jamie, I know you're joking." And I was like, "No, mate, sorry, you failed." And just watching him process that, which is obviously a lot longer in reality to what you see in the video, was horrible. And I just remember looking over to Charlie, who was filming. Charlie and Vince, really helped me with this project. And I'm so glad he kept filming, but I wouldn't have had a go at him had he stopped, out of respect. But he was very professional and kept filming, which you should in these scenarios. But it was excruciating.
So, Jamie, the Star Wars universe is now part of the Disney family. Do you think the Star Wars universe has been enhanced or diminished with its relationship with Disney?
It's a really interesting and I think difficult question. It's basically the Brexit question of Star Wars, isn't it? It's very divisive. And it's one of the reasons I'm not on. I still have my Twitter account, but the app's deleted. I'm signed out. I personally, I have nothing against people who voted for Brexit. I did not vote for Brexit. I was quite against Brexit. And in the end, that whole argument, the constant argument, really got to me on Twitter. And that was part of the reason I left. But also another part of it was Star Wars. There's so much discourse out there since The Last Jedi, the second of the Disney movies in terms of the trilogy. It's just so like you're on one side or the other. There can be no middle ground, there can be no, and it's just very, I find quite stressful. And I just sort of think, I just want to have a good time with it. And my channel's quite positive, not in a kind of like, we're against the so-called toxic side of the fandom. I just don't care enough to hate it. If I don't like one of the movies, I didn't particularly like The Rise of Skywalker. It doesn't make me angry. I move on with my life, I actually had a good time for 2 hours watching it with my old man, who actually did enjoy it, and he's not that invested in Star Wars. I haven't watched it again since. That's okay. I don't need to make angry videos about it, which will definitely increase the views and subscribership on my channel if I did, because that's certainly what gets the clicks these days. So for me, if you don't like something, that's fine. If you do like something, that's fine, but you don't need to attack people on the other side, whichever side that is, and actually there are people out there who think Star Wars can do no wrong. And therefore, if you just say something was all right, Obi-Wan Kenobi was all right, you can get attacked, So there's extremists, if you like, on both sides, And for me, I think it's a mixed bag. I think overall the sequel trilogy was fine. I think there were some great moments and also some missed opportunities. I really liked Rogue One. I think Rogue One's a fantastic movie as a standalone movie, let alone a Star Wars spin-off, if you like. In terms of Disney Plus, again, a mixed bag. Boba Fett was very average. The Mandalorian is great. I think it's genuinely great TV, and I think you don't need to be a Star Wars fan to watch it. So it's actually a great introduction point. If you haven't seen Star Wars before and feel like you can't get started because you haven't seen a million movies out there, you can just watch The Mandalorian, and sure, you'll miss some details, but you'll have a good time. And I quite liked Obi-Wan Kenobi. Again, I thought there were some missed opportunities. Andor has made me like Obi-Wan less, because Andor, and I know it's not getting the viewership at the moment that the aforementioned shows did, Andor looks fantastic. It looks like a movie. They filmed it all around the UK, including Blackpool, and used real locations, Pinewood Studios, not the volume, that they've been using for a lot of the other series. And it just looks so good. And it's more of a HBO style of Star Wars than a Disney Plus. The writing's really strong. It's quite slow. It's a slow burner, and I know that's putting off some people, and I think that's fine. But I believe once it's all said and done, it will be a great series to binge. And I think over time, it will possibly be looked at as the best piece of Disney Star Wars. At the moment, just not enough people are watching it. And I don't know if that's because people have switched off to Star Wars, or because there's been so much at the moment with House of the Dragon and Rings of Power. And Andor is not Obi-Wan Kenobi. Cassian Andor, Diego Luna is not Ewan McGregor. It hasn't quite got that star power. But over time, I think it's going to be seen as I've actually seen some channels that basically have built their business on hating Disney Star Wars, actually saying, we're not going to make videos on Andor because it's actually pretty good. It's difficult for us to hate on it. I've actually seen that from some people. So a mixed bag, I would say. Sorry, it's a long answer to your question, Ed, but I think it's a really difficult subject. And one I try to sort of stay away from online. I just try and keep everything quite fun on my channel. Like, I've been doing a series that was born out of in lockdown, and I haven't really promoted it much, but I've made some more recently. So once I've edited them, I'm going to start pushing it. During lockdown, when that's all too much time on my hands, I started to think, what would TV be like in the Star Wars universe? And inspired by John Oliver's Last Week Tonight in the States, I did a Star Wars version with my friend Vince. So I dressed up as an alien, was the John Oliver of Coruscant, if you like, and we would write sort of 4-minute monologues of the week's news in Star Wars. So we started with, because the prequels, whatever you think of them, so much happens, and obviously they're very political. You can have a lot of fun with them. So we started in the Phantom Menace timeline, basically, and each episode was based on a different moment in the movie, if you like, but completely in universe, although we did do the odd out of universe joke. So I like to personally do stuff like that, which, whether you love or hate Disney Star Wars, you'll still hopefully enjoy this content. But honestly, whenever I say I like The Last Jedi, because I do, and I don't care if you don't, I really don't care, that's fine. I didn't like everything about it, but every time I say that, I literally lose subscribers or get pretty hateful comments on videos. And yeah, it's just a strange place. It's a strange fandom, and it's quite sad in some ways. But final thing on that, we have to remember, like in most walks of life in terms of social media, the angry people are the loudest, but they're also often the minority, but they're the loudest.
That's actually, well, that's totally put the dampeners on my next 3 questions, which I was going to ask you, because literally,
sorry, mate.
No, because
I did give the longest answer, probably an answer to questions that weren't even asked in the end.
I don't know what the original question was. No, but all I'm going to say is because I want to let you go, because I know you got
do your 3 questions. Do your 3 questions.
I'm going to do my 3 questions, which I am going to make you choose. So, well, I'll do 2 actually. Favorite Doctor Who. This is only because this channel was born out of our love of Doctor Who and James Bond. That's where it came from originally. Then we realized, no, we want to branch out, so we're going to ask you anyway. Favorite Doctor Who.
See, to go back to YouTube, I branched out, but then it turned out like I went to more of a pop culture channel, and I would have incorporated some Doctor Who, even though I'm not a huge fan. But YouTube wants you to niche down now, so I went to Star Wars only. So you might want to bear that in mind in future. But just have fun for now, I'd say. I'm going to go with Matt Smith, purely from a sort of business point of view, because I would like to interview him, because he had a mysterious role in Star Wars that got cut, apparently. Oh. And I want to know what it was.
Ed, there's a shock on the look of shock on Ed's face.
Sorry, mate. I'm not a big Doctor Who fan.
No, it's all right. It's just if you look at Ed now and thinking, why is he covering his mouth? It's because he wants to pick up his jaw off the table. Ed's probably not a massive fan of Matt Smith. But anyway, let's move on to the next
purely
one.
to know what his Star Wars role was.
No problem. Well, let's see. We might get 2 out of 2 here because you've chosen Ed's least favorite Doctor Who, and we're going to now ask you who's your favorite James Bond, and that will probably be my least one.
Yeah, so I'm very much a casual Bond fan. My dad's a huge old school Bond fan. Read the books, all the movies, and I don't think this is controversial. I'm going to go with Daniel Craig because his Bond movies are really the only Bond movies that I've genuinely really enjoyed, all of them in his run, and that does include No Time to Die, I'm afraid. And I think that's partly because I think No Time to Die, obviously not the same level of Star Wars in terms of outcry, but I think that was the last Jedi of Bond movies. You know, that did seem to divide the Bond fans, but as a casual fan, I really enjoyed it.
I'm not going to offer opinion, but we've been bow ties sometimes cool. Thanks ever so much for joining this, Jamie. Yeah, Daniel.
No,
well, anyway,
I've got big Bond fan friends who hated it, and they hate me for liking it.
Well, yeah, I can probably, I can imagine. So last thing we're going to do, I just want to say, Geekend, everyone check it out. You've got 19,700 subscribers, something like that, which is 19,690 more than we've got probably. But we're going to get some more. We're definitely more.
But wait till I say I like The Last Jedi again, and it will go down.
No, but you've got some amazing content on there. Again, the production quality is amazing, and you've got millions of views. So I'll be watching it. So
cheers, mate.
And Ed's going to be there as well. We're going to go through the.
I'm going to be watching it. I'm going to have a look at that. Yeah.
I love the one. There's a few where, what was it? So it's interviews, trivia, and parody. I love the parody one. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I want to try and do more of that moving forward. But it's just time, as you guys know. It's we all have other stuff going on in life, and
we do
doing these things that I called earlier glorified hobbies. In a way, it's they take a lot of time to produce, and for a lot of people who don't know the process, you just see the end result and assume it was just a bit of fun. Took the 30 minutes.
With that in mind, I'm going to let you get away because you've been very gracious to us with your time. I know you've got a stream that you need to get prepped for as well. So
I've got live to talk about Andor episode 8.
So is that streaming? What is that part of Patreon or?
No, it's to be honest, it more or less is everybody who's on Patreon. More or less are the only people that show up for the streams. My streams don't get big views, but it's quite nice in a way because I know everybody that shows up in the chat, and it's a bit like our days on Fubar. Actually, we kind of all know each other. It's become a little bit of a family. But no, it's just on the regular Geekend. Just doesn't seem to get much traction, but that's all good. Well, it's the cool club.
You never know. You might get somebody called Ashley turn up every now and again. You'd be like, oh, not him again.
Oh, block.
Not even after the last time. How very dare you? How very dare you? No, Jamie or J-Dog, you've been a star, man. Thanks ever so much for talking to us this evening.
No, thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Ed. Thank you for having me.
So we're being bow ties sometimes cool. So it's good night and goodbye from me, Ashley. Goodbye, Ed.
Goodbye, Ash, and goodbye, Jamie.
Goodbye.